Welcome to today's episode of Financial Fluency. Today I have the fabulous Michelle Lowbridge with me here, who is an author and a teacher on the art of unlocking human potential. Hi, Michelle. How's it going?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm so excited to have you on the show because we've tried booking you in a few different times, and with you in the UK and traveling and me with all of my stuff, it hasn't worked till now, and I'm so pleased that we made it work today.
Me too.
And another thing, I just love your accent, so I'm super excited for everyone to hear this. Just to give a little background, my first experience with Michelle Lowbridge was several years ago. I think maybe in 2014. You were a special, like a special guest in a program that I was part of, and you recorded some exercises, kind of like meditations, but we'll explain how they're a little different. But I loved your voice in my ears so much that I started listening to this exercise you had us do, and it would help me fall asleep at night, and it just was such a nice thing. So I just wanted to tell you how much your voice has helped me over the years.
Oh, thank you.
So Michelle, can you explain, I think you can do a much better job of explaining what you do than I can, because it is so nuanced and interesting and unusual.
So are you talking about the money block work?
Let's talk about all of your work.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, wherever you want to start. We can start with the money block stuff, but I want to talk about your books as well. And
yeah, sure. So I really help people figure out exactly why they're not reaching their full potential, and just to identify what the subconscious story is that they're playing that's holding them back, and then we identify what it is and then locate it in the energy system and remove it from there, and then it no longer informs their thoughts and behavior.
Okay, and how do you do that?
So, well, I'm not going to really go into exactly how I do it, because that's obviously what I train my practitioners in doing.
Okay.
We use the system of muscle testing to identify the exact the phrases and patterns, and then a system for working with energy to remove them.
Okay. Yeah, that was something when I read your book, Wealthology. It was really interesting looking at these different structures and types and paradigms. And do you call them archetypes? Is that?
Yeah, they are archetypes. I call them profiles. Yes, yeah, it is like an archetyping can't say it, system. Yeah.
But the frustrating part for me at the end of each of those, because after you explain what it is, you also explain that you need to be careful in working with people with this type of thing, because these sorts of things can happen. And with each one, I was like, but then what do I do? How do I do it? How do I make it work?
So, well, it's written as a guide for coaches who have the tools to then go through those processes with their clients. Okay. So for people that can kind of work with subconscious or energy or mindset stuff, and obviously also with the option that if you don't have the tools to do that with your clients, then you could train as a practitioner in my system or something along the same lines. Or if it's something that there ended up being a big audience for the book that was people who weren't necessarily coaches, who wanted to just understand themselves better. And so that was partly why I was training practitioners, because there were so many people that wanted to work with me that I couldn't keep up. And so there are now lots of other people who can do what I do. So you can kind of work with them.
So just to give the audience sort of a touchstone that they might be able to relate to in terms of the kind of work you do, you were originally trained in which methodology was it?
Health kinesiology.
Kinesiology, okay.
Yeah.
I sometimes mix up Reiki and kinesiology.
Yeah, they're really different. So kinesiology, over here at least, means muscle testing. So you're talking to the body and using a system of questions to identify where the stress is. Okay.
Well, that sounds really interesting. And I know that I've watched you have a bit of a meteoric rise. I knew you from Denise Duffield-Thomas's Lucky Bitch group, and I actually just recently interviewed her. I'm kind of coming out of the closet with my woo-woo-ness, because I've always been very focused on, systems and structures and automation with your finances and having a firm foundation. But the truth is, I think we've all recognized that there's more to it than that, that there are these real deep emotional levels to our self-worth that goes along with our money and stuff like that. So I have explored a number of things myself, including Denise's work and your work too. I was in your prosperity prescription group for quite some time. And that I found really interesting too. Maybe you could explain the kind of work you did with that group.
Yeah, so that was really, the Wealthology book takes you through 12 what I call themes, which are so the subtitle of Wealthology is The Science of Smashing Money Blocks. And it's really about the things that block people from success. And they're found in places that other people just aren't looking. So when people think about money blocks, they immediately kind of default to that programming around kind of money is bad or that kind of thing. And what I found in my work was that there were all sorts of other themes that affected how much people can have and what they're capable of achieving. So, and it's things that might seem quite obscure, like loneliness or anger or self-liberation, like how much people are willing to accept their own thoughts and know that they're allowed to think whatever they want to think. And so in that group, we took you through cross-referencing your profile. So say, which profile were you?
Trying to remember which one I started out as, because I moved pretty quickly. Sorry?
Were you a hustler?
I don't think I was a hustler, no. I tend to be like, when I do a lot of these quizzes, I tend to be like a nurturer or, because I have the special needs kids.
I'd say you're probably the guardian.
Okay, maybe. I think maybe I was a guardian. It's been a couple of years since I did that test.
Yeah, so if you're the guardian, you basically attract money with the energy of enthusiasm. So you're really all about encouraging other people and being very enthusiastic. And what we find,
right?
for every profile, then when you look at how a guardian is affected by loneliness, when you cross-reference those two, then you find a really specific set of money blocks. So it might be things like, if a guardian, for example, feels that they had an experience where they were really enthusiastic and then they were isolated. So for example, if you did really well at something, or you were really excited about something, and then you were maybe being a bit loud about it and you really got told off, like that's really crushing for a guardian spirit. So they will really shrink down. So anytime that there's great potential for them to feel really excited and enthusiastic about something, there's a subconscious belief that that is somehow going to cause them to feel lonely. And loneliness is such a stressful state of being that we will do almost anything to avoid feeling it or experiencing it. And so that just affects what you'll do in your business and the levels you can take it to, because as soon as there's something you feel really excited about, you subconsciously will either pull back from it or sabotage it, and therefore it's a lot harder to make money from the things you really, really enjoy. So that's the system. The Wealthology system is taking how each of the 6 profiles behaves in relation to each of the 12 themes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. We all have so many things like that, it seems like. I mean, I remember in the group, each week you would have us do a different, we'd have some phrases that we would repeat in our heads for a certain amount of time, to try to kind of clear those things out. And then a lot of us would write our experiences of what happened there. And would you mind if I just quickly shared that first experience that I had with you? I don't know if you remember. It was, when you were the guest expert in that course, and I was listening to the audio. I don't think I was on the live call. I think I had to listen to it later. And I was lying in bed holding Tallulah, my daughter who has autism. And I can't even remember what phrases it was, but it was something that seemed relatively innocuous. Like I didn't expect to have this reaction, but I had a really physical reaction of like a huge rock in my throat and of not being able to swallow or move it or speak. And as a child, I think I've told you before, I was abused as a child and I had years of silence before I spoke about it. And then my daughter's autistic and is mostly nonverbal. So I had this really interesting experience of like my silence and her silence. And I actually ended up weeping on listening to this audio as we were doing it. And then by the end of the exercise, it was like it melted away. I was still crying, but it was like it had melted out of my throat. And so I had such a physical experience, such a physical reaction to this audio that you recorded for us, that's why I ended up wanting to work with you and joined your program and everything. So I was just like, I don't know what this is, but it's really powerful. And I had, that would take years of therapy or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm quite impatient. So that's, I think, partly why I was really drawn to this work. And then where I kind of took it and developed my own system to just make it just really quick, so that instead of like maybe taking months of journaling to identify what is that block that's stopping you from moving forward or speaking up or making money, whatever, and finding it really fast and then clearing it really fast. Because I mean, who's got 6 months to do like affirmations and mindset work? I personally don't have the patience. So yeah, it is quick. And that's really is what happens when you work with the energy system, is you're really going right to the root of the problem, because it's the blueprint for everything else. Who we are, how we speak, what we think, all is carried in that energetic blueprint. So when we make changes there, when we edit it, hence energy editing, it changes everything that is kind of spawned from that. So it brings about really quick change.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was interesting too, seeing, I know a bit of your story, your background, how you'd been a kinesiologist and then you stopped to have children, right? Can you tell the story?
I got 2 daughters and I stopped to have Jackson. Yes.
Right. Do you want to give a quick overview of your business arc up to now? Because it's been pretty impressive. I remember once calling you just to be like, how did you come up with this business structure? It's so brilliant. And I watched you have like a $40-some thousand or pound launch really quickly and seemingly easily. Can you tell us that story a bit?
Yeah, sure. So I was a kinesiologist, just working in person, like it's like an energy therapy. So in a room with people, not making very much money, like £30 an hour, giving loads of discounts, and thought, right, well, I'm gonna shut this down. I was pregnant. I'm gonna shut this down. I'm gonna take a year off, have a baby, and I kind of set the intention and told my husband, when this is done, when the baby's a year old, I want you to be out of teaching, and for us both to like be working from home in some capacity, so that I'm not doing like 0 to 5 with another child, because I might lose my mind. And so he was like, oh, okay, like a year seems like a really long time. I knew I wanted to have an online business, didn't really know what that meant a couple of months before, but I was in B school, so I was getting an idea, and then stopped completely, built an online course, which completely launched it. Nothing happened, like literally just like 2 sales, which were friends that I'd messaged and said, like, you can pay like 25%, do you want this? Like nothing was happening.
What was that course?
That was Happiness for Mums. So that was like a based on Mike Dooley's Infinite Possibilities course. Like it's like kind of mindset, manifestation, opening yourself up to what's possible. And it's really good material. Like his material's awesome. Clearly I had some, I don't know what the blocks were, whether it was money blocks or just that it wasn't what I was meant to be doing, or I didn't have a clue about marketing, but then I didn't have a clue about marketing when everything took off. So maybe it wasn't that. I stopped, had Jackson. I was in my baby bubble for about 6 weeks, and then started reading The Big Leap. And in that, Gay Hendricks talks about the upper limit problem. So there's a limit on what you think you can have. And how I'd experienced this was that thing of saving money, and suddenly like the washing machine and the car break and the money just immediately goes out again. And he's like, that's your upper limit. So I'm like, okay, what's causing my upper limit story? And having no patience to do the exercises in the book, I just muscle tested, like, what's the story? And it came back to it being something I picked up from having two very different sets of grandparents. One set who we just spent all our time with growing up, who were just kind of regular people, really loving, very generous. And then another set of grandparents who were very wealthy, but very uptight, unhappy, like tight-fisted, quite honestly. And I'd turned that into a story. I had no idea. I turned that into the story of, if I make a lot of money, that's what my life will be like, and I won't belong over here anymore. And so I found this story. It just took a few minutes with some testing. I was like, okay, what am I going to do with that? I'll do some energy work on it, cleared it. And then like 24 hours later, I just felt completely different about money. I just felt really relaxed. I was finding solutions to problems that we'd got. I went and bought a new car. It was just, I felt really different. So I went in the Lucky Bitch Facebook group and was like, I've got a new skill. Like, I want to practice this. Does anyone want to try it? And I'd done that before when I first went in the group, like, you know, I'll test some stuff up and do some energy work for people, and people were into it, but nothing really came of it. And this time, I guess because like I just hadn't got an upper limit on money anymore, or at least like until I hit the next one, like there's always work to be done. At that point, there was no limit there, and people just went crazy, and there was an amazing response. And then it turned into, this is incredible. I really felt that. Can I book a session with you? And I'm like, I've kind of retired. I've shut my practice down. I've just had a baby. I'm not working. And then they were saying, well, if you come out of retirement, let me know. And people kept asking, and I just went to Pete and said, look, like, people are actually literally lining up to give me money. What do you think? And he's like, I tell you what, I'll hold the baby and you just pop in your office, crack on, fine. No, he was very sweet. So he was just really encouraging. Went back in and I said, okay, well, it's going to be £100 for a session, as if anyone is going to pay that. And they did. Like, I think the first 24 hours, 11 people booked a session. I'd made £1,100 overnight. I was like, this is crazy. This is more money than I made, like, probably in 2 or 3 months as in physical practice. And then over the next week, there was another 14, and it just went on and on. I couldn't keep up with the demand. And then I launched a group program, and just the numbers didn't really make any sense in terms of kind of what you're told about, you know, you must have this many leads, and then this many, like, that will turn into this many email opens, and that will turn into this many sales. Like, get it energetically aligned. None of those numbers mean anything. And so I just had 350 people on the list over, like, in 48 hours. And then in another, I think I sent 3 emails, and the final email on the Monday was the offer, open the cart, and then within, it was like, I think 10 or 14 days, over 100 people had signed up, and I'd made $45,267, and it's just insane. Just went to my husband and said, you know, quit your job, don't go back to teaching, you can stay here and look after Jackson, and I'll run a business. And so that's what happened. And then so the following year I just ran that program, was doing some one-on-one sessions, and then did the same thing the next year, did like a DIY because people wanted to learn how to do it themselves, did a course for that. And then in the second year, so that was last year, was when I started training people to work one-on-one as practitioners. So that's kind of where we're at now.
That's pretty fantastic. That's just such leaps and bounds. I mean, so many people struggle so much at different levels of that story you just told. Like, lots of people get stuck somewhere. I mean, you have how many practitioners do you have out in the world now?
There's 31 now.
31. So if someone comes to you and says, I live in Australia or New Zealand or America, you can send them to a person in their area?
Yeah, well, we all work on Skype anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all done remotely. So yeah, there's more likely to be someone in your time zone now, which is nice. But yeah, and I think there's been loads of times, like in the last 3 years, where I've got blocked. Like, it happens all the time. I get stuck, and it is just, I have to just do my own work. And especially doing what I do, I have to do my own work, because I can't, be in integrity and not be doing energy work on myself. But yeah, there's always something, and peeling back layers, and like stuff starts to feel hard, and it just fascinates me. Okay, why is that feeling hard? What's the story I'm telling myself? What have I picked up there, or learnt there, or whatever? So there's always something to be shifted.
So when something feels hard, that's a sign that there's something going on.
Yeah, I think so. Because when things are feeling good and you're excited, you're inspired, then generally you're in alignment. So if there's a feeling of like you're having to push, or you're feeling like there's a struggle, or everything feels really good and there's no money coming in, like something's going on there. So then it's like tap into what's going on, dig in and find it. Yeah.
Okay. So for the audience, it would be great. I usually ask the guests to have like a few tips that they can take some action on, okay, so they can kind of see the benefit, and then hopefully come and find you, find your books, find your practitioners, things like that. So for someone, my audience is mainly made up of women working from home, working outside of traditional jobs. Some may have special needs kids like me. Some may have taken time off to have kids and now want to do something online, because it's so hard to go back to your career when you've taken a few years off. For a lot of us, and I'm including myself in this, because lately things have felt really, really hard and like a real struggle, just like getting through the week. Sometimes it's stuff with the kids' schedule. It's not always just work. What would you say to them if they're just like, but everything's hard, every day is hard, it's a struggle? How can you help them move towards ease? Okay,
so I think the first thing probably what I would say to you in that situation is to acknowledge that it's hard, so you're doing that, so that's good. And then also know that it doesn't have to be hard. And that immediately the subconscious wants to go, what do you freaking know? What do you know about my life? Of course it's hard. I've got these kids with with these issues, and I have this and I have that, because it wants to keep you grinding. That's the story it's telling you, because that in some way is keeping you safe. So the first thing we want to do is to allow in the possibility that it could be a lot easier. And I think as a mum, like, I remember reading The Alchemist and having 2 young kids at the time, being in my first marriage, and just being like, oh my God, I'm allowed to be happy. Really? Is that's a thing that I'm allowed, even though that I have children? Ooh, like, deep breath. Okay. And just having that click of, it doesn't have to be this way. That for me was a big shift. So I'd say that's like, as long as you're telling yourself that it's not possible, of course it's never going to be possible. And then probably to start breaking down, what's the story around the reward for it being hard? Because there's always something. So, for example, is it like to be a good mum? Of course you're going to always be busy. Or if I'm struggling, that means I'm trying really hard, so therefore I'm really deserving. I'm not allowed to have it easy, because then other people can't relate to me. There'll be something that you've got tied up to the idea of things being difficult that makes you hold on to it. And it's funny, because the last 3 weeks, that's been something I've really had to look at for myself, and how even when I thought I was getting what I wanted and creating space, I'd immediately feel so guilty that it felt easy, and that I wasn't working insane hours, or I was getting an opportunity that I wanted, or I'd created a bit of time for myself, that it was like a subconscious vacuum, and I'd let other stuff come in and fill it.
I do
And
that too. I try to set aside writing time in my calendar, and yet, like trying to get people in different time zones, then I'll be like, oh, I do have an opening first thing, even though I've kind of blocked it off for something, for a big project,
yes,
You're right. I let other things come in, and then I feel like scrambled for time.
yes, yeah. And a big part of that is, and especially where you've blocked off for something that you really, that's what you really want to be doing, I guess, is writing. And so when we think about that, subconsciously, the thing you most want to be doing is the thing you're going to have the most amount of resistance to. And that'll be for various reasons, such as, well, if I really do it and I fail, then what do I have? Or, well, if I really do it, then I'm getting to do what I really want to do. And there's guilt around that. And that might be for loads of different reasons, but quite often it is just as simple as we've been told life is hard. Like life is hard. People are struggling. Get on with it. We all have to do things we don't want to do. I have lovely parents, but that's one of the things I can remember being told. I was whinging. Like, life is hard, Michelle. Get on with it. We all have to do these things. But now it's like, all of a sudden, oh, I've got a nice office and a nice house and the kids are taken care of and it's all good. Oh, there's this space to write. Well, I'm not playing by the rules because life is hard. So I must be doing something wrong. And it's so deep in there because it's from when you were 7 years old until you start to think about it. You just have no idea. And there's so many, like, I think sometimes the identity of a good mother is tied up to somebody who is harassed in some way, and isn't it? It's like,
yeah, being able to win the misery Olympics at coffee with the other women, being like, oh, you thought your day was hard. Let me tell you about my day. My day was really hard, right?
yeah, absolutely. And that's a thing of like wanting to fit in, which is completely natural and normal and completely ingrained in us. But to be can you imagine being the mum that's like, I just spent the whole day writing and it was amazing.
And then I got a pedicure and
yeah. And your subconscious is going, you can't say that, they'll knife you, like, keep quiet. And actually, probably it creates space where there might be the odd person that goes, bitch, but quite often there'll be people that go, wow, okay, how are you doing that? Like, it creates the space of possibility for other people. But that wanting to, like you say, the misery Olympics, wanting to fit in, wanting to be relatable, not wanting to have it too good or too easy. That, I think that's a big part of it. And so just in terms of like baby steps, I would say just start with like 10 minutes non-negotiable that is for you every single day. And what I would suggest you did with that 10 minutes would be to lie flat. So remember, this is a practice from my program.
Actually, when you said that, I suddenly missed it. I was like, oh yeah, my Epsom salt with baths and lying flat for 10 minutes every day.
Exactly.
When I was in your program, I did that. And it was really interesting just to lie flat on the floor or on the bed. Sometimes I have pets, so they climb on me if I lie down on the floor. But
yeah, everyone thinks you have to lie on the floor. I never lie on the floor, like sofa bed.
Okay, sofa bed.
On the bed. And literally just, there's a few things that you have to do. So you put your phone on airplane mode. So it's like no music, no interruptions, no nothing. And set a timer for 10 minutes so that you're not like worrying, and then you're also not worrying that you might fall asleep and like not pick the kids up. So set a timer and just lie flat in silence and close your eyes and just lie there. And what happens, a couple of things that happen. One is that the monkey mind will go completely mental to start with, and you just let it go for it. And then when you first start doing this, it will literally be like 9 minutes and 57 seconds. The monkey will wear itself out. But by about day 5, you find that like all of a sudden at 7 minutes, the monkey goes quiet. And those last 3 minutes, you have this immense sense of peace. And the longer you do it, your body just gets used to, okay, we lie down, the backlog of stuff that's going on in there just releases. And you have like just a sense of calm comes over you. And it makes you really much more efficient in what you're doing, because it just gets rid of that kind of harassed energy, and so you can see really clearly what your next steps are. And quite often I find in doing that, there'll be 3 out of 10 things on your to-do list that you can actually see don't need doing when you're in that calm state. So it saves you, that 10 minutes will save you so much time. And also in energetic terms, when you lie flat on your back, the energy, like the bubble that's all around you, your energy field, is full of layers, and each one has a different job. And when you lie flat, they realign and kind of restack on each other, like you know those Russian stacking dolls. They realign, and so it helps your body just process energy better. So it's good for you physically and mentally. It's an absolute godsend. But quite often when you're first told to do it, it's like the amount of resistance that will come up, and that's just because we don't want to feel and think what we know we'll feel and think when we stop. And so you honestly just have to push past that. And once you've done it 3 times, then you'll recognize the benefits. But the first probably 3 times you have to fight the resistance first, but it's 100% worth it. So yeah, I would do that.
So as you were talking about that, it kind of pulled me back into that experience of the group, and the group's not existed for a couple of years now, right?
No, it hasn't since we finished the second one last September. But funnily enough, last week I was having a conversation about bringing it back. So it's funny that you say that. Yeah.
Because I had a product idea for you right now, because I was like, some of my favorite moments in there were when you actually recorded the exercise and we had your voice. I know that at the time it was too much for you to do every single week, but I was like, I could see a self-study program. And I know that you did the muscle testing for the group, what was going on, but I was like, I wonder if there are enough basic things that everybody needs to work through that you could put together like an audio course where you do listen to your voice, because your voice is incredible. I mean, honestly, I love lots of voices, but your voice really had like such a calming, and I felt it inside of my head. I mean, I felt like I listened to a lot of audiobooks and people reading lots of things. You have a very special voice. It's really
so lovely.
So I would love to own this thing, which would be like an audio course to take you through some of those, and then do the lying down. So I miss it. I do miss being in that program. I felt like it was kind of a touchstone each day to do those exercises and then have my lie down time, and then to try to get my feet into an Epsom salt bath. What's with the Epsom salt bath? I mean, I know it's good for your body, but what else?
Yeah, so it's just to soak your feet in like pretty warm water and 2 cups of Epsom salts after doing the energy work. And actually, even if you haven't done energy work, it feels good because it draws stuff out of the body. And so when we've done energy work, we've loosened up all that kind of stress and negativity that you've got around like whatever it was that we were working on. Say like something as simple as being successful. When I get someone to focus on their phrase, and then in that group I was doing the energy work here, so then you think the phrase, I do the work, and it shifts the stuff. It kind of loosens it out of your system. Now a lot of what we've kind of loosened just will dissipate away, but some of it is kind of shaken up and it's still floating around in there. So it's unblocked, but it's still present. So what we want to do is help. It will just process out on its own, but the Epsom salts just helps that to happen really quickly. So, but what is preferable about soaking your feet rather than your body is that then you're just drawing stuff out through the soles of your feet rather than everywhere else. Yeah, that's
when I was short on time, I want to ask if this is okay. I should have asked in the group at some point. I would get in the shower and I would block the plug and put the Epsom salts in the bottom of the shower and then do my hair washing and all that stuff. So I was kind of like multitasking.
Yeah, it's definitely better than not doing it.
Okay, all right. So I was like, is this okay to be like showering and doing all my shower, shaving my legs and all that, but my feet are still in the in the
I
salt.
think it still does the job. And actually, I did that myself the other day. A couple of weeks ago, I'd done some work and I was just in a hurry and I was like, I just chucked the Epsom salts in the shower and almost immediately I trod on them. I felt better. Good.
It does feel nice to have that little gritty saltiness under your feet when you're doing it. Yeah. So, well, that's fantastic. So is that a good set of tips for people to get started with? Acknowledge that it's hard, think that there's another way.
Allow that it's going to be easy, and and maybe just to start thinking about like what's your attachment to it being difficult? Like what's the story you're telling yourself about what it's almost like what are the negative things that were going to happen if it wasn't hard? That's where I would probably start. Like if all of a sudden everything was easy, what would it mean about you? That's a good place to start digging in, is to just the stories that you're kind of carrying around, really. And then when you start finding those things, then there's a technique, the limiting belief release technique. So when you you can access that one. No, that's the one where you put your fingers in the center of your chest, and the limiting belief in 30 seconds. So, well, if your listeners, if they send an email to Michelle at michellelowbridge.com.
Okay.
I'll say it again slower. Michelle at michellelowbridge.com. We'll send them a PDF of Wealthology, and if you go on the it's a different website now, energy-editing.com, then you can find the quiz on there. So you can find the quiz, find your profile, and then that gives you, you get quite a lot of information about like why you're blocking success, why you're blocking money, and what you can do to change it. And that also gives you access to the limiting belief release video. So yeah, if anyone wants those things, that's where they are, but we'll send you a copy of the book.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I was thinking, for anyone who's skeptical about this, at first I thought of it as a form of meditation when I would listen to your audios and do that. And I think even if this sounds too woo-woo, I would say go and just give it a try. It's always worth a try. If nothing else, mindfulness, calm, lying flat, having some Epsom salts, like none of those things will hurt. And it might do a world of good, because I feel like going through that program, the monthly prosperity prescription, I learned a lot of little things about myself that I had reaction, when we were saying the phrases that I didn't know about myself before. So it was really interesting, a lot of self-discovery there. So
I think there can never be any harm in learning more about yourself.
Yeah.
And your own behavior. Because what we find as well is money is just kind of the window I go in through to find out what's happening in your subconscious, and those stories show up other places. So if you feel like lack and fear in one area, the chances are it might show up in another, which might be relationships or how you feel about your body or all of these different things. So it's always worth just, even if it's not me, that's fine with me, but just like find someone who you resonate with, who's talking about just digging into what's going on behind the scenes in your subconscious or in your energy system, and just like do some work there. It's so worth doing, and it's so much faster than just working on your like conscious surface thought patterns and behaviors.
Well, that sounds like a great place to wrap up too. So thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us. This has been great. And we'll be sure to put those links that you mentioned in the show notes, both to your website and the Energy Editing website. And we'll put both of your books on there too. I read Wealthology and I loved it. And I have Agile CEO here on my Kindle right now. So I'm going to dig into that too. So if you're interested in any of this, you can start with the books, you can start with the website, and I'd love to hear how it goes. Let me and Michelle both know if you guys jump into this and give it a try. So thanks again, Michelle.
Thank you, love.
Bye.
Bye.